guys want some mangoes? No? Okay, more for me. Hey fresties, welcome back to another video. I actually got a request to talk more about the books that I'm reading, not just the books that I'm writing. So I figured what better way to start off than with a bookshelf tour. I'll show you guys the books that I own that I've read, as well as my physical TBR, you know, the books I have physically that I haven't gotten around to reading yet. And I forgot I need to be down here. And you can also see the sheer amount of frogs that I have. Oh my gosh. Naked Froggy is over on my dresser. Pardon his absence. Okay, so this shelf is all DVDs, so I'm not gonna get too much into that because that's kind of irrelevant. I have them organized by color on this row, and then this row I just haven't gotten around to doing that yet. Lots of 80s movies, lots of... I'm actually really slacking in the rom-com department. This is a disappointment to myself. So shelf number one, I've got 3 Stephen King books up here. I've got 11/22/63, which I have not yet read. That is on my TBR. I got that book in high school and I still have not read it. I am 23. Then I have It, which I also read in high school. Not this copy. This copy I just got like maybe a year ago. And I got it from Thrift Books. Like 90% of these books are from Thrift Books. It is my favorite website. It's amazing. Not sponsored. I wish it was, because I love them. I read It when I was in sophomore year. It was my favorite book for a long time. I still have not seen the, what is it, 2016 movie remake. I have watched the miniseries from the 90s, but haven't gotten around to watching that movie yet. Right, this is very precarious. I've got a lot of frogs. Then I also have the Stephen King book on writing. Oh my gosh, it's dusty. Ignore that. This one I did not get from Thrift Books. I got it from Amazon and they said that the condition was good even though it was used. Ooh, does this look good to you? And there are like pages falling out of it and everything. Thrift Books does not trick me like this, okay? This is why I stopped ordering from Amazon as soon as I found Thrift Books, because they actually are accurate about their quality. Anyways, back to the book. I got this book when I was in high school and I wasn't super serious about writing it. I more so got this just because I was curious about Stephen King's life, because in my sophomore year and I guess my junior year as well, I was really into Stephen King books. I have an H&M tag as a bookmark in here. $4.99, I don't know what I got. It's great as a memoir and it is great as a writing advice book. This definitely is something that, you know, the advice has stuck with me all these years. I come back to it. It is very helpful. Moving on to this little stack that they are situated on. Okay, this is Palms. I got him at the middle school store when I was in middle school. I didn't just go to the middle school store recently. We have a little novella, Emma Kane, A Wedding in Valentine. I have read this book. I remember it a little bit. I want to read the others. I think this is part of a series and this is the first in the series. The books that I'm working on right now, a lot of weddings are taking place in this series that I'm writing, so I need all the help I can get when it comes to writing weddings, because I've never been to one. Then, very exciting, I have the novelization of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. This book, I love it. I love it. I really would love to start a collection of movie novelizations because I just think it's so funny that we as a society have completely accepted book to movie adaptations. People don't even read the book and they go see the movie, and a lot of times the credit goes to like the people who make the movie and not the author, but maybe that's just me being an author, being kind of, you know, picky about it. But anyways, I think definitely authors are getting more recognition for that kind of a thing nowadays. I think a lot of that can honestly be credited to the Hunger Games and Twilight and stuff like that, because everybody knew, you know, these are books first and foremost that became movies. And I feel like that sort of jump-started books getting adapted into more movies, but it also created a movement of respect for the authors behind the original works. But anyways, I think the reverse is just so fascinating because it never caught on. Like, there are a fair amount of movie novelizations out there, but a lot of people don't even know that they exist, and a lot of people see it as just kind of like weird, whereas the other thing is so normal. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is one of my favorite movies of all time. John Hughes is one of my biggest inspirations ever. This movie is just so near and dear to my heart, and I've always wanted to get this novelization, but for a long time the only copies that I could find were very expensive, and I found this one like maybe 2 years ago or something, and it was a very reasonable price, and I snatched it up as fast as I could because I wanted it really bad. I love having it. I loved reading it. Moving on, beneath that we've got The Perks of Being a Wallflower, which I have not read since 2017, I think. I just remember I really, really loved it. And then I watched the movie adaptation and I was like, this sucks. The movie adaptation sucks, okay? I'm sorry. Hot take, opinion that most people probably don't agree with, because I know that movie is like beloved in a lot of circles. I hate it. I don't like it. Even the crush that I had on Logan Lerman as a girl did not salvage it for me. Not at all. If you look a little bit further down, I have 2 copies of Hoot. I was obsessed with Hoot as a kid. I was obsessed with the movie, probably 50% because of Logan Lerman, but we're not going to talk about it. I watched that movie like a bajillion times. I've only watched The Perks of Being Wallflower one time. Never again. And I regret that one. I wish I could wipe it from my memory. I dislike it so much. The book is phenomenal, okay? And I'm not talking about like even the acting. The acting, sure. The casting, sure. When I watched that movie, I did not find any of the characters likable. When I read this book, I think everybody's likable. At least that's how I remember it, you know? Everybody has their flaws, but they're likable in spite of their flaws, like real people. Everybody in the movie got on my freaking nerves, dude. Anyways, stacked between Hoot and The Perks of Being a Wallflower, we've got 2 Candy Apple books, Accidentally Fabulous and Accidentally Famous. There is a 3rd book in this series and I don't know where it is, but I do own it. I, as a middle schooler, was obsessed with the Candy Apple books. I still think they hold up. I just read these like, I think in 2020. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. If I ever write anything middle grade, which I think could be fun, I will definitely be looking to Candy Apple books as inspiration. They're just fun. They're fun. And they bring me back to when I was like 12 years old, so. Then at the bottom here, we've got a book called Supermarket, which I read a long time ago. I remember liking it. I remember thinking, okay, this is very derivative of Fight Club. I enjoyed it nonetheless, but the thing that I remember about it the most was that I found the relationship in the book to be just, and I hate using the word cringe or cringy or any derivative of that word, but oh my gosh, it was so cringe inducing. Like I remember just like physically recoiling every time the 2 of them were interacting. Well, I can show you some of my knickknacks. I've got this little speaker, which goes with this little speaker, which is a frog. Show him, show him, show him, show him, show him. Show him. Look at him. Oh my gosh. I've got 2 bears. I've got this cool statue thing that I think is actually my sister's, but I took it, so. And I've got 2 Pokies and 1 Gumby Reanimator bookmark from Cavity Colors, one of my favorite places to get horror movie t-shirts and such. I also have a Pumpkinhead bookmark and I'm really sad because I can't find it. And I also have a Tarman bookmark. So, you know, the gang's all here. I've got this massive Best of Archie Comics deluxe edition collection thing of comics. And I've got my collection of Archie's comics, which I was very into as a kid and tween. I was really a fan of Archie Comics. I have not watched Riverdale. I turned on maybe 5 minutes of the first episode, like the month it came out, and I was like, wow, this is as bad as I expected it to be, if not worse, and I stopped watching, and I have never watched it since. I don't know why they let that happen, to be honest. Like, it still baffles me. This is not supposed to be here. Ignore that that was there. And this is out because I am currently reading it. So this shelf is done. Let's move it on down to the Nora Roberts shelf. Yes, it is an entire shelf for Nora Roberts. I would have more if I could. So this is the one that I am currently reading. I have read the first book. This is like 2-in-1. I really like that Nora Roberts has so many books like that because it just makes it really easy. At the same time though, it does make it confusing sometimes. So I have a list on my phone of all the books of hers that I have because it just makes it easier, because the title of this is Western Skies, but the title of the ones inside of it are Song of the West and Boundary Lines. So I just keep track of which ones I have inside these like collection books. I've read Song of the West. Not my favorite Nora book, but it's one of her earlier works. I will say the atmosphere, lovely. And I have not started Boundary Lines yet. That is the book that I'm about to start reading. So yeah, it's, you know, Western stuff. The first one takes place in Wyoming on a ranch, And the one that I'm about to read takes place in Montana, which I love Montana. Never been, but my brain says, yeah, Montana. It's like, it has mountains and stuff. Moving right along, we've got this big book, which I took the jacket off and have forgotten to put it back on. I kind of like books better without jackets sometimes. This is a 3-in-1. It has True Betrayals, which I've read, Montana Sky, which I've read. I love that book. I want to reread it because it's just such a comfort book for me. And then lastly, we've got Sanctuary, which I just finished reading and is pretty good. If you want to check out my Goodreads account, not like for my writing, just for reviews and stuff like that, I will leave it in the description as always. Yeah, I'm a big fan of all 3 of these books, but my favorite is definitely Montana Sky. Blows the other 2 out of the water for me. I've got The Liar, which I have not started reading. I was actually going to start reading this, but this is gonna seem like the stupidest reason. But in Sanctuary, which I just finished, there is a character called Giff. G-I-F-F. Giff? Who knows? And in The Liar, the main hero's name is Griffin and they call him Griff. And I was like, I can't go from a book where I was just reading about Giff to a book where now I'm reading about Griff. You see what I mean? Then we've got Blue Smoke, which I have not yet read. Oh boy. Then we've got River's End. This book is, oh my gosh. If you haven't read anything by Nora Roberts before, this is a fabulous starting point. This is, in my opinion, some of her best writing, her best storytelling, her best plot. Like, oh, I just love it. It's funny because it's not my favorite. In terms of Nora books, this is probably number 3 for me. But oh my gosh, like that's just personal taste. If I had to rank it from what I've read and say like, oh, this one is objectively the best, this would be it. Then I've got the Irish Born trilogy, which is Born in Fire, Born in Ice, and Born in Shame. Haven't read these yet, but I'm very excited to. I love Nora Roberts trilogies. Just when she has a whole series of characters that are recurring and stuff like that, it's some of my favorite stuff of hers just because it's so immersive, and I took a lot of inspiration from her works in that sort of a category for the current series that I'm writing. Moving along, I've got the Reef. That was interesting lighting there. I have not read this one yet. I have started it and then I never picked it back up. I got to page 11, so very impressive. I'm thinking this might be one of the books that I take along with me for summer vacation because, hello, it's a book about the beach and like scuba diving and stuff like that. Then moving along, we have what is definitively my favorite Nora Roberts book. The second Nora Roberts book that I ever read, The Witness. The main character in this book, she's so fascinating. The hero, I like him, I love him, don't get me wrong, but the reason why this book is my favorite is because of the heroine. She is everything, okay? She's got this super unique backstory. She is just so likable and you just want to give her a hug and you want to see her open up over the course of the book. I don't want to give much away, but I really recommend this one, and also the setting in this one has stayed with me for years and years and years. All right, moving on, we've got another trilogy, Daring to Dream, Holding the Dream, Finding the Dream. Haven't read this yet. And again, I just want to reiterate, most of these came from thrift books. And do you see how like intact they are? I think this was my most recent Nora purchase, Time and Again, which is a collection of 2 books, Time Was and Times Change. I read a book, I'll put it here, I don't remember what it was called, but it was a time travel romance. The couple gets sent back in time. They're not a couple at the start. I was like, ooh, time travel romance. So I searched up for time travel romances and Nora actually had some, and I still haven't read them yet. You would think it would have been a timely thing because it was so of the moment where I was like, yes, I want to read more time travel stuff, but I didn't. Then I've got another collection of 2 books. This is called Irish Hearts, and it's got Irish Thoroughbred as well as Irish Rose. Haven't read those yet. Sure, let's do these ones next because they're in an awkward position. These are the MacGregor Grooms and the MacGregor Brides. I have read these. These are 3 stories in each book. These are just so near and dear to my heart, especially the MacGregor Grooms, because I was at work one day. I was just really upset. I didn't enjoy working there. My friend was supposed to give me a ride home, but she couldn't. So then I was like, okay, well, what am I to do now? I got some food and then I went to Safeway, browsed their books, came across this. I think I had only read 2 Nora Roberts books at this time, but I really liked them. One of them was The Witness, which is like my favorite book of all time. Tied. So I came across this one. This is the moment where I started to annotate my books. I went to the section of the store that had highlighters and pens, and I bought some highlighters. I was like, yeah, I am the girl who highlights her books now. That's my new calling. And this book was just really comforting, and I was reading it outside and it was a bit rainy, and I was sitting on patio furniture in front of the store highlighting away. It was a good time. It was a good moment. I don't know why I remember it so much. But this book, despite the fact that I had read 2 Nora books beforehand, this was the book that really drove home, this is my favorite author. I love her. And then, of course, since I read that one, I had to also get the MacGregor Grooms, fabulous book. The story between Naomi and, what the heck is his name? Ian. Naomi and Ian, so good. That is one of my favorite Nora stories ever. Because Naomi, she just like, she gets it. She gets it. In that series as well, I have the MacGregors' New Beginnings. I have read Playing the Odds. I have not yet read Tempting Fate. But if you want to get into a series of Nora's that is like really in depth about the characters and a family together and like characters cross over from book to book, the MacGregors is a fabulous one to choose. Speaking of family series, I also have the Stanislaski, that sounds right. The Stanislaski stories. These are 2 in each book. So I've got Waiting for Nick, Considering Kate, Taming Natasha, and Luring a Lady. I think I said those in the wrong order. And I don't even think this is the entire series. I would have to check on Goodreads and see. I have not yet started these. I don't even know which one comes first, but I'm excited to get started because, again, that whole family series drama crossover stuff, I'm obsessed. We are almost to the end of the Nora books. Speaking again of family ties and stuff, I have the MacKade Brothers. I have the entire series. I haven't read this yet. Again, it's a thing I'm very excited to start. If you are familiar with the current series that I'm writing, the Red V Romance series, this is where I got inspiration for the family name. The family name in my books are called the MacKadens. And last but not least, we've got 2 books in a similar vein to each other. We have Dangerous Embrace, which is another 2-in-1 of Treasures Lost and Treasures Found, and Risky Business. I read both of these. I read 1.5 last year when I was on vacation, and it's very funny because I was on vacation in North Carolina last year and I brought this book with me. The main character's name is Kate. She was on vacation in North Carolina. She wore glasses. I think they were reading glasses though, and I think she was a brunette and pale, and I was like, hi. All of this is applying to me. But I did not meet a man named Kai Silver, so. And Risky Business, I started it when I was on vacation and then I finished it like half a year later, but I still really liked it. And then this is another book that I'm going to bring on vacation because it's another beachy one. This is The Coming Storm, which is a 2-in-1 of The Welcoming and The Art of Deception. So that is the end of the Nora shelf. Trust me, I will be purchasing more Nora books. I've had an itch lately. But that brings us to our final shelf, which I have no freaking idea how to film. So I'm probably just going to pull books instead of aiming the camera down there. So in recent thrift books purchases, I have bought some classics. I bought Pride and Prejudice, which I want to start reading because I listened to the audiobook for like half of the book, and I don't know, me and audiobooks just don't really click. Like, I can't really immerse myself that much in a book if it's told through audio. I don't know what it is with me. Anyways, this is my Tarman bookmark. Look at him. And I also got Emma, which I've heard is supposed to be like her definitive work, her best work. I got Persuasion. I really wanted to get familiar with Jane Austen, is what this means. I got, how do you pronounce this? I'm not trying to be dumb, but literally I don't know. I want to say Northanger Abbey. That's my best guess. Please don't beat me up in the comments. I got Sense and Sensibility because I watched the movie of this one, the one with Alan Rickman, and I was really enamored with the character that he played, and I just wanted to experience that in written form. I got the Sonnets and Other Poems of William Shakespeare because I want to get more familiar with poetry. I have not started reading this yet. I have been slacking on my goal of the year to read more poetry, which I didn't even talk about in my goals video, but now you know. And as well, I got A Midsummer Night's Dream, which I just recently read. Very fun. Like, not a whole lot of substance, I would say. And yes, I do get the ones that have the translation. Sorry, sometimes I need help. Ew. Okay, yeah, this one has some grunge on the back, but we'll not talk about that. I got As You Like It, and I also got Much Ado About Nothing, which I have the DVD of, and I love that movie. I love that movie. So I really want to start reading that. It's over there because I was gonna start reading it, so sorry, but it looks just like this. Here is a painting that I started and never finished of a cityscape. I have Scar Tissue, the autobiography by Anthony Kiedis. I got like, I guess like maybe 20% of the way into this, and then I never picked it back up again. And I still haven't gotten my hand on Flea's autobiography yet. This was a book that I bought at the same time that I bought the MacGregor Brides. This is California Girls by Susan Mallery, and this is the book that got me into reading Susan Mallery, and I really love her work. I remember I really liked the story about Allie and Daniel. That was the one that was my favorite, but all of them were very good. It's a story about 3 sisters, and they're all going through their own romantic crises. Then I've got Ready Player One. This was a generous gift from my sister's boyfriend, I think for Christmas. Might have been my birthday. They're like right next to each other, so I get gifts mixed up sometimes. People hate it. I really enjoyed it. I read almost the whole thing in one day, and then it got so stressful that I had to put it down for a few days because I was like, I can't deal with the ending of this right now. But then I finally finished it and I was like, wow. I also actually did like the movie adaptation. I don't know, a lot of people hated the movie, and if they didn't hate the book, they disliked it. They say it's just, you know, a collection of references and stuff like that. Yes, it has a lot of references. I liked that, and it's not like that's what the entire book relies on. You're allowed to make references without it being an attempt to emotionally grab your audience as like sort of a cop-out without making your own emotional connection, because this has its own emotional connections. A lot of the criticism that I saw of this book and the movie was like, it's a movie that just goes like, oh hey, remember this cool thing that you liked? Oh, we put it in the movie. It's like, but it has its own plot and characters and its own meaning. So I don't really get that criticism of it. That's just my personal taste though, I guess. Okay, these are gonna be fast ones because honestly, they're really random. I had books that I wanted to read that I couldn't find at the library, so I just went ahead and bought them off of Amazon. This one is called Getting the Girl, A Guide to Private Investigation, Surveillance, and Cookery. It was good. I don't really feel the need to own it, so I'll probably either sell it or donate it eventually. But yeah, it was nice. Another random one is Lexa Pros and Cons, which again, it's a good book. I liked it, but it's one that I don't really feel the need to own. I do remember enjoying this one because it did have like stuff to do with mental health. This book is pretty random. It's called Zane's Trace. It's pretty short and a lot of it is told through like poetry, if I remember correctly. It's a very interestingly written book, and I do want to reread it because it's been many years since I have read this one. I do remember the plot twist though. Well, that makes it kind of interesting. I think that things can be almost like a whole second story when you do know how it ends. Yeah, I really don't remember much of this one apart from that twist at the end, and that he wrote on his walls with Sharpie. This one also was a little random, Drums, Girls, and Dangerous Pie. This was a book that I really enjoyed. I think this is more of a middle grade than a young adult. I have wanted to read the sequel to it because there is a younger brother in this book, and the sequel focuses on the younger brother once he has grown up, which is something that I might want to do with one of the books that I've written. So the final random one that I have is Tales of the Madman Underground, which is a book that has been on my Goodreads list for, I think, basically since I created my Goodreads. I somehow came across this book and I read the description and I was like, wow, that sounds awesome. And I still haven't gotten around to reading it yet. I started it, I got to page 64, chapter 4, and then I just never continued it. So that's definitely something I want to pick back up. Now we're just gonna go in order again. I have the Stargirl series, Stargirl and Love Stargirl. Stargirl I read like back in middle school maybe, and I liked it a lot. I don't think I ever read the sequel, and then in more recent years I wanted to reread it, so I did, and I liked Stargirl still just as much as I remembered it. I thought it was very moving. I did not get around to reading the sequel again. It's just one of those things where I'm like, I feel like this is better as a standalone. It just feels like something that doesn't need a sequel, so it makes me kind of antsy, I guess. I've got It's Kind of a Funny Story by Ned Vizzini, which is a wonderful book. Really, honestly, to me, it's a classic young adult book. Like, this is one of the must-reads if you're looking into the young adult genre. I've read it numerous times. This one actually has a movie adaptation that I am quite fond of. But yeah, I can't recommend this one enough. It does have some darker themes with mental health and everything, so obviously if that's something that you're not looking to read, then stay away from it, but it's very insightful. It's the mowing. The mowing is starting again. Help. Okay, we're gonna get through these lessons fast because that is not fun. This book, one of my favorite books of all time, Don't Get Caught by Kurt Deenan. Sorry, blame it on the mowing. Seriously, read this. If you like young adult, read this. If you like heist stuff, read this. Like, it's so fun, it's so zany. I love all the characters. It's like if the Breakfast Club got together and tried to perform a heist at high school. Like, it's just wonderful. I love this book. I read it in high school. I remember being at a pep rally, and look, that was not my scene. Everybody else was standing up on the bleachers. I was sitting down with my nose in this book because I was just so into it. I was like, who gives about the pep rally? I'm reading. Also, one thing I love about this book is it has a cow that like goes in circles. It's like a flip book on the bottom corner. I don't even think that was in focus, but yeah, 10 out of 10, love this book. One of my all-time faves. He said before that there might be a sequel. That is a book that, yes, I want a sequel to. I am holding out hope for it. If it never comes out, it's fine. It has a very satisfying ending, but man, I would love a sequel. Then I've got Fight Club, classic. I remember I was reading this in high school and my teacher was like, he saw that I was reading it and he was like, I hope that's not like the movie Fight Club. And I was like, what else would it be? You think there's two things out there named Fight Club? Great book, another great movie adaptation. I would say the movie adaptation to Fight Club is the most accurate, most true movie adaptation that I have ever experienced. This honestly is a tricky book, I will say that, because wow, I have a word search from my high school astronomy class about constellations. Yeah, this is a tricky one for me because I know that it's like satire. I know that it's a satirical look on like male behavior and macho-ness and masculinity, and I do appreciate it from that perspective. But also the first time that I watched the movie, which I watched the movie before I ever read this book, I didn't get that. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I was probably like what, 16, 17, so not to insult the intelligence of other teenagers, but for me, I didn't get it. I thought it was just like, oh, a cool movie about like exploding stuff. So for me, I appreciate it from both perspectives, I think, just because the original lens that I saw it through was not the intended one. It was the uneducated one that took it at face value, basically. This is One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. Haven't read this one. I have started this book 2, maybe 3 times, and each time I get to like chapter 2 and I just don't continue. I don't know why. I've read the first chapter to this book over and over again and I just can't, I don't know. I want to read it. It seems like the type of thing that I would love, but I'm not on my young adult kick anymore. Like, I've sort of strayed strictly into romance territory these days, so I just haven't gotten around to it. I don't know. Which is very funny because a lot of people say in the comments of one of my books, 4 of Clubs, that it reminds them a lot of One of Us is Lying, so that makes it even more amusing to me that I haven't read it, because it's like, I want to see the similarities, but just haven't gotten around to it yet. Also, another thing is that when I first purchased that book, it was just a standalone. Nowadays, I think it has a sequel and maybe even a 3rd book. I think it has 3. So that makes it, again, a little more intimidating because I'm like, I don't really feel like getting into this series right now. So, you know, we'll see. Last but not least, we have what is tied for my favorite book of all time, but honestly, like, it's my favorite book. It's my favorite book. This is The Dangerous Lives of Altar Boys by Chris Furman. Now, I got this book off of Amazon. It was a used book and they said that it was of good quality, maybe even great quality, and I opened it up and bam, there was all this highlighting inside of here and writing, and at first I was really mad. At first I was like, dude, I like to do my own highlighting. What am I supposed to do now? The solution was that I underlined the stuff I liked with a pink colored pencil. And I actually ended up really loving the fact that I got somebody else's copy. It has his name written in the front page and like he made annotations everywhere. It's obviously for a high school class, and like he wrote about homework that he had to do and essay questions and all that, and it was just really amusing to be reading this book and going along with it and seeing the commentary of a high school boy like what his thoughts were versus my thoughts at the time. So I actually ended up being really happy that I got a copy that had all that in it. But whether or not the copy that you read has scribbles in the margins, it is still a fabulous book. It is just beautiful. It is the perfect mix of melancholy and humor and, you know, young adult tragedy and day-to-day life, just the day-to-day struggles of young adulthood and being a teenager. It's a really wonderful, beautiful book. I can't recommend it enough. It's one of those things I don't want to spoil. And this one does have a movie adaptation. That's actually how I found out about it, because back in like 2017, I had a really huge crush on Kieran Culkin, and so I was watching every single thing that he was ever in, and he was in this movie, and I watched the movie and just loved it. And I found out that it was a book, and I had to get my hands on it, so I did. The book, better than the movie, but it's a wonderful adaptation. So that concludes my bookshelf tour. This was a very long video. I hope that it was interesting. I hope that it gave you guys some more insight into the types of books that I like to read, and it gave you some recommendations to check out, because I am very fond of a lot of these books. A lot of the NORA ones I have not read yet, but I am very excited to. And I have a lot of Jane Austen to get to as well, that's for sure. If you want to see my reviews for any books, feel free to check out my Goodreads account, linked in the description. Just for fun, you know, I don't review things very seriously, and I'm by no means a professional, so take it with a grain of salt. It's just for fun. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and sorry Naked Froggy was not in this video. I apologize.